All right, everyone, you have another fluff piece out, starting off the day with legacy media propaganda. Link in the description, archived, of course. Liberals once again attempting to blame the Biden border crisis on Donald Trump. The first cope was, of course, that Donald Trump is responsible for the border crisis, and the Biden administration for 2 years harped on this line unsuccessfully, saying, well, we inherited a mess from the last guy, and the border was a problem. It's wide open, big issue, but at the same time, there's no border crisis, and then later on they're like, okay, there is a border crisis, but again, it's not our fault. Now the legacy media has done a pivot, as the Biden admin's too retarded to do it themselves. Their new pivot is that it's the torpedoing of the so-called border bill, the bipartisan border deal, and that Trump is the one that caused that, which is technically true. Now, he encouraged the MAGA Republicans to block it, and they've been doing so. So that bill is currently stalled out. It's in a gray area. It's like, okay, negotiations continue. 6 months from now, something may be done. What I would like to point out, though, and I have before, is that the border bill isn't a border bill. Only a small proportion, less than a fifth of the money allocated in the bill itself even has to do with the U.S. border. That which is earmarked doesn't necessarily really solve your problem anyway. Look, if you had a clean border bill, let's say $100 billion or something, and it was entirely allocated to the border, and you tacked on some pork to it. So here's spending for Ukraine, here's spending for, the next gubernatorial library in some swing state or something. I would say just swallow your pride and vote for it anyway, because you're actually attempting to solve the problem. Yeah, there's pork in the bill. Well, that's inevitable because of the way Congress works. But it would be acceptable because the bill would actually address the core issue. There's some side spending, some mumbo-jumbo over there, but it's fine. The problem is that the border bill is predominantly about aid to Ukraine and Israel, not about the border. That's half of the money that's allocated in the bill has to do with foreign affairs. I don't see what that has to do with Mexico or the border down there or the Rio Grande or the Eagle Pass crossing or anything like that. It has nothing to do with it. The first problem, therefore, is bloat. That is that predominantly you're not addressing the issue that's earmarked in the name of the bill. The second problem is that some of the aspects of the bill itself, somehow they're even worse than the bloat. It's mainly pork, but it also contains a provision that, DHS can basically say, the State Department can basically declare anyone an asylum seeker unilaterally. And we'll close the border if you have a certain number of non-qualifying crossers, but because you can arbitrarily define who those crossers are with or without any legal recognition whatsoever, you're never going to hit that threshold, so the border will never be closed. Effectively, it's pig in a pokery. It's an attempted takeover of the southern border by a federal government that for years now has repeatedly shown it has no capability to actually guard, no will to guard at times. And it sort of depends on the official that you're referring to. Some of them are like, they throw their hands up in the air like, well, I'd love to guard the border, but we don't have the resources. We don't have the means. There's too many people crossing, and the leftoids don't like it. So for pragmatic reasons, we can't really do much. Others are being malevolent. They're the ones that want the trafficking. They want the fentanyl coming in. They want to get you addicted to fentanyl. They want, 12-year-olds to get trafficked in sex rings and weird shit like that, like the Epsteins of the world. They love the border crisis. Oh, all of those kids coming across, and a third of them have disappeared, and ICE doesn't know where they are. That damning report was almost immediately covered up. That was last year. That was, I think, in autumn, around August or September. You had a report that up to a third of all of the minors coming into the country, they get dropped off with a guardian. They're kids, so, basic processing, and then they give the person a cell phone and say, okay, I guess you're claiming that this is your relative, and so bye. That's basically the process is a handshake. It's a gentleman's agreement that you won't rape this child. And then they disappear. Tens of thousands of children are currently being trafficked in the United States because of the border crisis. I'm sorry, but give us your tired, poor, huddled masses, and come all ye faithful. Sounds really great. Okay, we want to show our largesse to the world. We're the empire. We'll take all comers. You want to come and fight for the empire, live in the empire, work in the empire, pay lots of taxes to the empire, etc. Okay, well, meritocratic arrangement. You've got some sort of skill, some sort of intellect or physical capability that makes you an asset to our country so you can come in. And then hopefully, you work hard, then you buy your farm and you settle out in the Midwest somewhere or something. At least that was the idea in the late 1800s. It's no longer pragmatic. The country is no longer largely fallow. Basically, all land is spoken for. It's owned by somebody. There aren't enough positions for people. Unemployment is at a record low for a reason. It ain't just because people keep taking out second jobs. That job creation is really quite something till you dig into the numbers. And third, it's not actually largesse. It's not generosity. It's exploitation. What the politicians in D.C. are doing right now is actually exploitative to the people that are coming into the country. Hey, we're going to use you as a political wedge issue every other year, and we'll promise you things that we never follow through with, like with the DREAM Act and shit like that. Okay, well, eventually you'll have a pathway to citizenship. No, you don't. You'll be a slave for the rest of your life. You can come into the empire, but you'll always be a second-class non-citizen. Well, technically third class at that point. That's number one. You will alienate people around you. You will be used as political leverage. Some of you will get raped. Half of you on the way will get at least sexually assaulted. That statistic's even more fucking crazy. So you come into the country. You've been freshly deflowered at the ripe old age of 14 or something. And now you get to stay here. And depending on the state, maybe you can even drive. We'll give you your own bag of banana chips. Inside joke that most of you won't get. But you're going to get trafficked or something. You work at a sweatshop for half of minimum wage. And you'll goddamn like it. You'll think that you're on cloud nine compared to your shitty home country in Central America or something. The fact that they're blaming Trump for this situation when he at least made an effort to tamp it down is ludicrous. This is the Biden border crisis, and part of it is for one glaring reason that I see almost never getting analyzed. Part of it doesn't have to do with policy. It doesn't have to do with the border wall. It doesn't have to do with putting phalanx systems on the border wall. It doesn't have to do with the moat with the crocodiles and the landmines on both sides or anything like that. It doesn't have to do with that. It has to do simply with the atmosphere of the administration. That is the way in which it portrays its views on the issue. Under Trump, he made it clear early and often, don't come to the fucking country. I'm going to turn you around and kick your ass back across the border. Therefore, a lot of people did not bother trying to cross because they were afraid of the repercussions. If I'm in Honduras, I'm not going to ride on the skeleton train 1,500 fucking miles in order to get deported immediately, have to wait in Mexico in a refugee camp, get denied anyway, and go back to my home country at gunpoint. I'm not willing to do that, especially like if I have kids or something like that. Biden takes control, and when he was campaigning, up until Kamala saying, don't come, please don't come, the administration basically told these people, oh yeah, that's perfectly fine. No, Donald Trump is an evil racist. Don't worry, America takes all, we don't care what color your skin is, and you can come in here and be a slave for us, which is exactly what half of these people are, and more than that if they happen to be under 18, unfortunately. It's basically just it's the perception of public policy, more than the policy itself. If the perception is that this is highly risky, I'm going to get kicked out anyway, I'm going to get caught, I'm going to end up in a fucking prison and stuff, U.S. prison of all places, I'm not going to bother. Yeah, things may be shit here, there's hyperinflation and socialism and stuff, but I have no choice, I have to stay put. Or I'll look for a safe third country, maybe I'll go to Colombia or something, and I'd become a narco. Under Biden, the perception is not there that the border is actually guarded. Part of it is literally nothing more than a self-fulfilling prophecy based on public statements made by the administration, absent any actual change in policy. And so the states are attempting to compensate for that, and they're getting married on their fucking way by the federal court system, which apparently doesn't recognize the existence anymore of the 10th Amendment, and if you go to Hawaii, they don't recognize the Constitution at all. Thankfully, they don't have an illegal immigration crisis, because they're a small chain of volcanic islands out in the middle of the goddamn Pacific, so it's kind of hard to take a train to Hawaii. That's about all. Peace out.